Okay, since Teddy Inman got my channel taken down, I'm going to tell my military memories again, since he had them destroyed. He and my sister and my ex probably do not want these memories told because it ruins their street cred that I was actually in the military. So, because they want everyone to think that I'm just a crazy old bum woman who has never done anything in her life. But when I tell my stories, it kind of ruins their stories of me. Because I've actually been in the military. I have been through paralegal college. I've been through political science college. Ivy Tech first, then Indiana Wesleyan University. I'm not the crazy retard that they are making me out to be. Heather likes to tell everybody that she did everything that I did. And I sat around on my butt doing nothing. She likes to tell everybody that I never worked a day in my life. I mean, just look at her one channel. She likes to tell everybody that the church paid for everything for me. No, they didn't. I worked at T.M. Morris to pay all my bills when I came home from the Air Force. Heather is completely Looney Tunes. Yes, I got food stamps. I had to. But the church never paid for anything. Heather likes to tell everybody that the church paid for my rent, the church paid for my daughter's clothes, the church paid for this, the church paid for that. No, I paid for it all. Heather can go sit on a frickin' tack. Okay? In fact, Lamont couldn't even keep a job to save his frickin' life when we lived in Logansport. I did all the frickin' work. In fact, the one time I tried to ask the church for help with a tire, they told me that I was not Christian anymore because I hadn't been to church in 5 years because I was serving our country. And that's when I stopped going to church. Until I got to God's house. Now, granted, I quit going to God's house last week because they started judging everybody, and I finally couldn't take it anymore. I saw them judge one person for saying something they wouldn't even tell me about. And then they let another man use our church as a hunting ground after hurting a friend of mine until he wound up in jail on attempted murder charges. And then they let our worship leader wind up in jail on child molestation charges. Really. I know quite a few other people. I know another lady who left the church because she felt judged for having full grand mal seizures. They started judging me because I had a couple of focal seizures. They had judged me in the past too because I had been dating someone they didn't like. So they tried to take Aurora from me then. they there's a lot of other people who have left because they felt judged. And I used to tell people this was a non-judgmental church. Well, I'm not saying that no more. Anyway, so I'm debating what church to go to now. I'm debating whether I really want to try again. Debating whether I just want to stay at home and worship on my own. I've been judged a lot by churches. And I saw attendance fall off a lot at God's house for the judging. Down to less than 50 people. Actually, I think by the time I left, it was less than 20 people. Sad. I know the Baptist Temple died, and so did the church I attended in Manitou Springs because of their judging ways. And I think God's house is going to die too. I fear for what will happen to the building once it does. It's a very beautiful building. But you can't keep a church alive by judging people. They judged the last pastor right out of the church. Anyway, back to the military. I had quite a few memories. Basic training. First time I met Sergeant Seaton, I hear, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. I was like, what is he saying? It was hurry up. Now, Sergeant Seaton was Hispanic, and at the time I wasn't used to the accent. So it took me a minute, and I got used to the accent real fast. You either learned fast or you got chewed out pretty good. He had a habit of calling us psychoaddicts. I never learned what psychoaddict really meant, but he told us that we could put whatever we wanted on our flight picture. You should have seen him turn 3 shades of beet red when it came back Satan psychoaddicts. When he learned I had been born on the base because my mom had been there as a civil servant, he said, "What are you doing back here, you psychoaddict? Didn't you get enough of this place the first time?" Oh, God. One night, we heard a very loud thunder crash that woke all 60 of us up, and we all headed for the latrine real fast. Our dorm chief sitting there yelling at us, "Get back in bed, get back in bed, get back in bed." No, we got to go pee. We asked about it the next day. No one else had heard it. And years later now, after living in an urban war zone here in Marion, Indiana, and having heard flashbangs go off several times throughout the neighborhood, I'm starting to think what happened was these jokers, the TIs, came up the fire escape flash banged us in a trash can and then ran back down the fire escape. Well, our chow hall runner was married to the brother or the dorm chief of our brother flight across the hall. They got married just before they came to basic. Oh, great. So they were allowed to pass notes back and forth across the hall. Just don't get caught. Well, she was picked on something hard about this, so we were often late to chow. God, that was crazy. We go to Town Pass, and when we come back, our dorm chief yells, "Okay, who got laid?" Her hand shot up. We go, "Oh, shut up, we know you did." On the obstacle course, I did fairly well through it all until I got to the final obstacle, which was a water obstacle. I go to reach for the rope, and I'm ready. And then the TI goes, "No, wait!" Boom, right in the water. I come up spluttering and cussing and swearing. I was pissed. And he's sitting over there laughing. I was like, "You son of..." I knew he had done it on purpose. When we went to the M60 course, I had done well enough to qualify. I had never shot a weapon before, fired a weapon before. I was 8 points off from making expert. Pretty good. That day, however, that was the day that Selena was killed. It was the first time they had let us have contact with the outside world. They turned on the radio for us to listen to on the bus. Yolanda Saldivar has killed Selena. And we're all sitting there going, say what? Well, shit, man. Well, don't that just fuck the duck. In Biloxi, where I took my tech, when we got our safety brief, they told us to watch the alligator at the 18th hole. Well, that was some interesting safety brief. I remember one night we were walking down Highway 90 and we hear a rattling. Yeah, we're flying back the other direction. Boom! You hear a rattling, you run. It's a rattlesnake. Ain't playing with that, buddy. Well, I come to love the ocean. I had never swam in salt water before. Oh my God, it's an experience. I did that a lot until one of my bay mates got a little too close to the pier and wound up coming back covered in stingray marks. Ah, crap. Yeah. I loved going out to the marina and feeding the squirrels. They would come right up to you and take peanuts right out of your hands. I had this one little female. She would take a peanut right out of my hand and eat it and then just kind of lay out flat on her belly and just like she'd had a hard day. Cute. Well, one weekend I had come back to be with my family for a 3-day break, and when I came back down, We had a layover in Houston. Well, Hurricane Allison started coming towards the base. I'm like, what the hell am I doing back down here? So I get back to base, and everything's boarded up, taped up, what have you. Don't come out. All right. We had been cleaning the bay, and someone decides to stick the buffer in the small area between the shower and the wall. I'm trying to pull it out. Buffer runs over my foot. Next day, my ankle's swollen 3 times its normal size. Yay. Well, Hurricane Allison had reversed direction and went to Florida, hit Homestead instead. But it left tornadoes in its wake. 2 had already hit base. One of them had thrown a tree branch through our Bay Chief's car's rear windshield. And she had just brought it to base that weekend. Well, I'm hobbling back from the hospital, and I hear a noise. Look up, there's a tornado tearing the ballpark apart. Headed my way. Oh, crap. Well, in Mississippi, there's no ditches. All you can do is run. So I get behind this cement partition, and I'm sitting there watching. And I watch this tornado just across the street from me, hit a building, and go towards the hospital where I just come from. I learned later it bounced off the wall, took out 3 cars, went out over the marina, topped a few trees, and over the water, was gone. I get into the school. There were some people standing inside the glass doors. And they were like, we were worried about you. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I get inside my classroom, threw my coat over my chair, said, we just got another tornado. And they go, how do you know? It chased me. Yeah. We had another tornado later that day. This hurricane was the gift they just kept on giving. I had joined the Fife and Drum Corps while I was in tech. And one of our drills, it was pretty informal. I was in sandals, shorts and sandals, and stopped right over this crack in the basketball court. Well, this fire ant decided he didn't like me standing there. Thank God it was just one. But he started going to town on my foot, chewing it up. You know, I'm sitting there going, give the command. Give the command. Give the goddamn command. She finally gives the at ease command. I reach down, slap that thing off my foot, and I go, God damn fire ant. She looks at me and she goes, good control. I still got a scar on my foot. Oh, God. I get to Colorado Springs. I fought that lightning-ignited brush fire right next to the armory. My car was out, so I was getting a ride with my partner. And we saw lightning hit both Fort Carson and the mountain. Smoke goes right up from the mountain. Oh, yay. So he floors it. I can't drive a stick because it would fire right next to the armory. So he drops me off to fight it. Yay. So I'm throwing this red rocky soil on the fire, just trying to keep it away from the armory. It starts heading down the mountainside towards Mountain Man Park. I'm like, fuck the park. I gotta keep this armory from going up. He gets back with the fire department, and the guys from Fort Carson are coming over. They finally let us go because we're already late for shift. So we get back to into the mountain, and our supervisor starts yelling at us. We're late. We smell smoke. I'm like, look, douchebag, we just fought. We just saved the armory from catching fire. So yeah, he had to back off. We did not find out anything more on the fire at all. I found out just recently, a few months ago, there was a couple of guys who were eating at St. Martin's here that had been fighting that fire from Fort Carson. And he goes, "Wait a minute, you're one of the two that found the fire?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Man, that fire was ridiculous. You're right, it did hit the park. In fact, it took out quite a bit of the mountainside." And I go, "Wait a minute, you were one of the crew that fought it?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "It's good to meet the one of the two who found the damn thing." He goes, "Gotcha." I said, "Yeah, they didn't tell us no more about the outcome of it. I'm glad you guys finally told me." Anyway, the other big natural disaster that we got caught up in was the blizzard of October 97. Oh boy. 3 days, skeleton crew, Cheyenne Mountain. ATM went out. We were supposed to stock food in our lockers. My partner did not do it. So we ran out of food, ran out of money real fast, both. Chow Hall started running a tab for us. They started running low on food. We were talking about hitting the MREs when they finally let us go. As for sleep, who can sleep on those god-awful army cots with no pillows, no blankets? Mainframe computer sounds all around you. I tried. Mm-hmm. So, when they finally let us go, what should have been a half-hour drive took 2 hours because the roads were so bad. I couldn't get anywhere near my apartment at Don Juan. So I had to park down at the Citadel Mall. What should have been a 5-minute walk took half an hour because the snow was up to my hips. Then Walmart calls. I was working a part-time job at the time. And they asked, "Can you come in for 8 hours?" Oh, are you kidding me? This was the Platt store just 2 blocks away. So I go over, work my 8 hours. I come home, and Poor Lamont at the time, I'll call him Poor Lamont at this time. He wasn't such an asshole then. I looked at the poor guy and I growled at him. I said, "You wake me up, you're a dead man." I'd been up for over 80 hours at this point. He said I slept the sleep of the dead for 2 days. That apartment had something that wasn't human in it. I don't like to talk about that apartment really, but I think it attached itself to him because he went downhill fast after that apartment. And he's still cruel. I think it really attached itself to him. And I don't think he'll ever be right again without an exorcism. My car was a Delta 88 at the time. 1988 Delta 88. It was a good car. I wrecked it. I had brought it home for Christmas, and I had wrecked it on in outside of Lake Psychic on black ice. It got 1,200 miles clear back to the Springs. Engine and tranny both dying. I rebuilt it, and it got me another 5 years of life until it got T-boned. Well, in October 97, I went out several times to start her. And that poor car, oh, she was just as grumpy as I was. I swear to God, she was grumping me out. She did not want to start in those cold conditions. Oh my goodness. But she was a good car. I definitely miss her. One thing I would change about my military years is having met Lamont. I really would. I might have been able to stay in. But oh well, it is what it is. All right. Adios.